Hey, I'm Hallie, and tonight we are coming on the air yet again with breaking news, this time from that bombshell trial in New York, with the jury in Diddy's sex trafficking trial apparently reaching a partial verdict in just the last couple of minutes. Notice we said partial verdict. This is on counts 2 through 5, but not count 1. As the judge, here's what's happening inside the courthouse you're looking at now. The judge is considering what the next move should be here, right? Now that there is a verdict on 4 of the 5 counts Diddy is facing. Again, a live look there outside court. We've got a verdict on charges 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to talk through what that means, but they do include sex trafficking and transportation to engage in prostitution charges. We're missing count 1. That's the racketeering conspiracy charge. It comes after earlier today, jurors had asked for transcripts of some really important testimony involving what Cassie Ventura said, Diddy's on-again, off-again girlfriend. Remember, that was that very high-profile, incredibly emotional, and at times graphic testimony from the first days of this trial about those so-called freak-offs. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all the charges he's facing. His team says all the sexual encounters he had were consensual. So I want to bring in Chloe Malas, our correspondent who's been covering this from the jump, Danny Savalos, our legal analyst. And just to set the scene here, Chloe, right now, I believe what we're waiting for is the judge to make a decision on whether he's going to send the jury back to keep deliberating on count 1. And it sounds like from what he said in court that that is likely to be the option here. He said something along the lines of, like, there hasn't been enough time yet for the jury to come back sort of stuck or gridlocked, deadlocked on count 1 here. How long do we think it'll be before we know what the next step will be? Do we have any idea?
Hey there, Hallie. I mean, look, we're going to know imminently what is going to happen, and it's very likely that the judge is going to issue this Allen charge tonight, and if the jury wants to continue to deliberate, that is really up to their discretion. I mean, you and I have been talking all along for the last 2 months, almost every single night, right? And I keep telling you that I stare straight into the faces of those 12 jurors, including the alternates, and I have said that there has been a look of dissent from some of the individuals on the jury when the prosecutors have put up some of those 34 witnesses, some rolling their eyes, some to really not be buying everything, especially when it came to the racketeering, the RICO conspiracy. And I'll tell you why. Because among the things that the government has to prove, they have to prove 2 illegal activities, which are predicate crimes, which we've talked about so much with Danny Savalos, who's basically given me a law class over the last year and a half. But they've had to prove racketeering, kidnapping, arson, bribery, witness tampering, forced labor. I mean, again, we have heard all sorts of testimony over the last nearly 8 weeks. And this is very complicated. And obviously, this is the one that carries up to a life sentence. This is by far, perhaps, the most important charge. And so, in a way, it might be a good thing that they're hung right now, because there's still a chance as they're deliberating from the defense's perspective. Remember, they have always said that Combs did not run a criminal enterprise. But on the flip side, the prosecution has said that Combs had a kingdom, that he had all sorts of assistants and people working for him, carrying out illegal activity, like the arson of Kid Cudi's car, like transporting drugs when Jane, one of his girlfriends, flew from California to Miami with drugs more than once that was allegedly at Combs's behest. But again, his legal team saying all along that these were one-off criminal acts, these were personal use drugs. And if you look at one of the jury notes from just yesterday, at the end of the day, it had to do with the 8th predicate crime of drug distribution, that they wanted that law read back to them, Hallie. But again, very interesting that they have come to a unanimous verdict on counts 2 through 5. Those are 2 counts of sex trafficking and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. And lastly, though, I just want to say, I mean, we did hear from 2 different escorts. We saw bank statements. We saw flight records. We saw hotel room charges on Combs's credit cards. We saw text messages of Combs with Cassie Ventura, with Jane, who is a former girlfriend of his who testified under a pseudonym to protect her identity, acknowledging that he knew that he was hiring these escorts. But in closing arguments, you heard Mark Agnifilo say, well, these were entertainers, right? This was his personal sex life. You don't want the government in your bedroom. He was paying for their time, their companionship. The prosecution said, on the contrary, he knew what he was doing, and this was transportation to engage in prostitution.
Chloe, stand by for a second. Obviously, hang for as long as you can. I want to pull back the curtain here for just a second for people, because Chloe's outside court. We've got a producer in the room, and that's Adam Reese, and we are getting word in real time. Again, can't have cameras in court. We're getting word in real time about what's happening, and we understand that the judge is now back. So they are now discussing what should happen next. And before the judge walked back in, it's sort of a fascinating look at what's happening at these tables. Sean Combs, Diddy, turned around, looked at his family, gave him a thumbs up, put his sort of hands together in like a praying motion here as this is all going down. And what is obviously, Danny, a very tense moment for both the prosecution and the defense, with word that the jury has come back on verdicts for 4 of the counts, but not the most serious one. I think it's fair to say. When Chloe mentioned something, Danny, like an Allen charge, can you in plain English explain what does that mean? What would the judge be doing?
Sure, an Allen charge, and it has different versions in the states, but it essentially tells the jury, go back there and work harder, really try to reach a verdict, examine your views, and no other jury could do it as well as you could. The reason defense attorneys like me almost uniformly reject these or object to them is because what Allen charges do in our mind is convince jurors who might be deadlocked, who might be, if you have a minority group of jurors who are for acquittal, they might be harangued and convinced and pushed into changing their verdict. So the general rule of thumb for defense attorneys is we usually object to Allen charges. We would rather at this point, if we think we're facing a conviction, we would rather a mistrial. But really, we're just playing the odds, and we're playing on odds that we don't really fully understand because we don't know what's going on in there.
Typically, Danny, you and I have talked about this before, it is not at all uncommon that if a jury comes back and says we can't get to a verdict, the judge will do something like this, right? Send them back and tell them try again. Typically, the first time they come back and say we can't quite get there, that's not usually the final one.
Exactly right. Yes. And in fact, he may send them back without an Allen charge. It's hard to say. But it's when they really indicate, look, we are deadlocked. Then you probably give the Allen charge. And then if they come back after that, after a few times, but again, it's totally up to the judge. It could be a couple times. It could be several times. It really, really depends on the judge handling the case and his feeling about the jury and obviously what each side objects to and doesn't object to. But the goal is to get them to get to a verdict and to avoid a mistrial. The problem for that, as defense attorneys see it, is that the idea of efficiency, the desire to avoid a mistrial, shouldn't trump the rights of the defendant, and especially if there is a minority of jurors who are for acquittal. We would rather a mistrial at that point than have those minority of jurors be swayed into a unanimous guilty verdict.
If, in fact, and then I want to go to Angela Sinadella, but Danny, if, in fact, they remain deadlocked on count 1, is it possible, like counts 2 through 5, is it possible those could also be a split verdict? In other words, just because they've reached a verdict on those counts doesn't mean the verdict is the same for each count, right?
It could be in theory, but I've been saying for weeks, I believe the jury would come to a relatively quick verdict on all counts except count 1. And okay. I say that only because there is more than enough evidence to meet these elements. The transportation, count 5 and count 3, for example, the elements boiled down are basically, was there transportation and was there prostitution? There is evidence, both documentary evidence and witness evidence, eyewitness evidence. They actually have escorts who came in and testified. You don't get that very often, and yet they came in and testified. So has the government at least put in enough evidence to sustain a guilty verdict? Yes. The other reason I think it might be all guilties is because presumably, if we're talking about RICO and some of the predicate crimes, are these crimes? Well, then that tells me that they at least have found the predicate crimes, because the predicate crimes for RICO are these other crimes, at least some of them. This is just me kind of playing guess at what's going on in there. But I think the odds are, if they've reached a guilty verdict, they might have split, for example, if they found Jane not believable or they found Cassie Ventura more believable. That might be a split. But I just, in light of all the other evidence that the government put in, they didn't rest their case. Their case did not live and die on the credibility of Jane, nor did it on Cassie Ventura. So even if the jury found Jane, for example, to be not credible, they had plenty of other evidence with which to sustain a verdict.
I should note that as we're getting these sort of live readbacks from what's happening in the room, there's now a conversation happening between the judge, the prosecution, the defense about not just what happens from here. And again, it sounds like, as we've said earlier, that both sides are in agreement. They want the jury to try to deliberate more on count one here, but also now about schedule, because I don't have to remind everybody here, July 4th is coming up quick on a Friday. Court is not in session on Friday. So there will be, if the jury does not have a decision by the end of the day, July 3rd, a potentially break. So it looks like they're sort of having a discussion around timing on that. Angela, let me go to you, because while count one, this racketeering conspiracy charge that Danny's been talking about, is certainly, by all accounts, the most complicated. It's just an involved count here. Count two, sex trafficking, that also carries a maximum sentence of life in prison, a minimum of 15 years. So these other counts do carry some significant weight as this jury is working to decide, quite literally the fate of Sean Combs moving forward.
Yeah, you're right. So counts 2, 3, 4, 5 do all contain actual penalties, right? So there's possible sentences that attach to all of these that could leave Combs in jail still for possibly the rest of his life. But I think what is interesting here with this RICO charge is that not only is it complicated, but everybody associates it with the mob, right? Because that is what it has been traditionally used for. That is what I first had experience with in law school when I was interning at the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of New York. And really, what it comes down to is that these people are understanding that the mob might not be Combs, right? That the mob is a criminal enterprise that has just their feet and their legs and everything. But I think that that correlation is possibly throwing the jury, because when I look at the actual legal definition of what is required to prove this RICO charge, I think personally that the prosecutors didn't meet it. But it is so complex. It is so sprawling. And if you have in your mind, this is usually what is used against the mob, it is hard to cross-apply here, Hallie.
Angela, stand by for a second. I think we have our senior legal correspondent, Laura Jarrett, who is joining us now, and I'll know if that's actually true if we see her pop up. And I think I hear her. So, okay, good. I can certainly hear you on that. So, Laura, part of this, too, I think you can't ignore the backdrop of what we've seen over the last 24 hours, which is this other note, the first or second note that came in from the jury about a juror that was not following the judge's instructions, and some concern there, which gave you a little bit of a glimpse behind closed doors at clearly some degree of disagreement that may have been resolved or may not. Now here we are, and this partial verdict has come out. Give us a sense of your takeaways on that.
Yeah, it seems like that has come back to rear its head, Hallie. I always thought that was curious, given that just an hour in, the foreman reported, look, somebody is saying they cannot follow the instructions. And I think if I'm a lawyer for either side, that's troubling. Interestingly, the judge did not bring that juror in and lecture them in person. Instead, they just sent a note back saying, do your job, follow the instructions, get it done. And then we didn't hear anything else, which was also curious. We know that they wanted to see the transcripts of some of the testimony. We know that they had trouble with some aspect of the drug distribution and whether a sale was required or not. They heard that a sale was actually not required on the drug issue, which is one of those so-called predicate crimes, which falls under the racketeering. So it's always hard to glean exactly which way they're going to fall on something like this, given that it does sound like that there is unanimity on at least the counts as it relates to the trafficking and the prostitution. I would imagine the judge is going to say, look, you've been working hard. We understand there are tough issues here. Go back. Come back, in the morning with a clear head, try again, and try to reach unanimity on that last charge. Now, it can easily be the case. We've seen this time and again. The judge does that. They come back tomorrow and they say, Judge, we are still hung on that. In that case, we will find out the verdict on those other 4 counts. It's not as if this whole case goes away, right? We will find out what the jury is thinking, at least on those other 4 counts at some point. But I do imagine the judge is going to try to, again, they're working out the language on the details here, but the judge is going to try to give them some admonition to make them keep continuing to work on this.
Can I ask you to hang tight for 1 second, Laura? I know you've got a lot going on, but I want to point out that the jury's coming back in the room. The judge is now calling the jury back into the room, which means we're getting close. Let me bring Chloe Malas back into the conversation as she is outside court. I should also note Diddy's family has returned to the courtroom now. Diddy has been sitting with his defense attorneys. At one point, they were huddling. They were hugging, in fact, some of the defense attorneys hugging each other. So I think everybody's on pins and needles to see what happens from here. Talk us through what else we're learning from inside court.
Hey there. So I was actually inside the courthouse watching as they were reading this note from the jury just a little bit ago, and Combs looking incredibly dejected. He put his head in his hands at one point, rubbing his eyes, looking at the floor. Like you said, his attorneys huddled around him, two of his attorneys kind of embracing each other. At one point, you could see Brian Steele, who was one of the 8 attorneys who joined later in this process, right before the trial, a very famous attorney out of Atlanta, Georgia, really talking with his hands very intensely. Everyone, you can feel the palpable energy in there. So now the jury, like you said, is coming back into the courtroom, Hallie, and we know that the judge is going to instruct them that he's going to have to read them the Allen charge, like Laura Jarrett was just talking about, and that they will be coming back most likely tomorrow to continue to deliberate. But like you said, this butts up right against the 4th of July holiday. But both the prosecutors and Combs' defense team have agreed that although there was not supposed to be court on July 3rd, they were giving the jury the day off to have a longer weekend, that they both agreed that they are fine with the jury continuing to deliberate on Thursday. In fact, they would want that given the long holiday weekend before they would potentially come back on Monday. Again, the judge can read the Allen charge more than once. So if they continue to be hung tomorrow, he could do it again. We've seen that before in other trials before he's willing to take a partial verdict.
Let me fill everybody in on what we're getting. And again, this is as of about 10 seconds ago inside the building behind you, Chloe, as we have Angela and Danny with us as well. The jury has walked back in the room. We understand that Sean Combs, as he stood to watch them walk in, was watching as they filed into the jury box and took their seats. The judge is now addressing members of the jury. These are not direct quotes. I'm paraphrasing here. But the judge welcomed them back and said, I ask that you keep deliberating, essentially. He reminded them of the instructions that they should be given. He reminded them they shouldn't hesitate to change an opinion when convinced, weigh your opinion dispassionately, reminding them the verdict must be unanimous, that they need to follow his instructions and make their own decision. I think the question now, Danny, is what the timeline will be. Just as a logistical note, given that it's 5:15 on the East Coast in New York, and typically court has wrapped up around 5, likely that he sends them home, they sleep on it, they come back in the morning to pick this back up?
It is likely. I mean, I have had federal judges keep the jury around till 11 o'clock at night, but that is a huge anomaly. More likely than not, these folks will be released. They will head home and probably come back. And they may come back relatively quickly. As you said, sleep on it, come back, and arrive at a relatively quick verdict. It's really hard to say, but I really don't see the judge keeping this jury all that much longer. And just going back to something we all mentioned earlier, interestingly enough, the RICO charge is not the most dangerous in terms of time for Combs. The most dangerous in terms of sentencing time, is count 2 or any of the sex trafficking counts, because they have that mandatory minimum of 15 years. So that's something to look out for. And that's why Combs is probably very, very nervous right now.
Yeah, as the judge has, again, just to bring people up to speed, the judge has told the jury now, keep deliberating. The jury has now walked back out. It sounds as though he told them to go back to the jury room. If you're done for the day, I'll dismiss you. So we're still waiting on some of the wrap-up stuff. But the big headline, of course, is that after getting to a verdict on counts 2, 3, 4, and 5 in this bombshell trial of Sean Combs, the jury is deadlocked for the moment on count 1. So it is only a partial verdict here. They will continue to deliberate on count 1, which is the most complicated charge, as we've talked about here. That is racketeering conspiracy. I think we can bring up a list of charges here. And as you see on the left side of your screen, it has been quite the scene outside court. You've had Diddy's family members who have been in court for many days. Diddy himself has had conversations, has turned around as he's in court, looked at his family members, made gestures to his family members, a thumbs up, for example, even in just the last hour as this has started to develop, as we received word of this note from the jury just about an hour ago now. I want to bring in Angela Senadella here because, Angela, it is tough to say how quickly and how many opportunities this jury will get if they remain deadlocked on this first count here. Can you tell us, based on your experience, the timeline of other cases here? Does the jury get, if they come back tomorrow morning and say, we still can't come to a decision, do they get sent back to keep deliberating? How many times might a judge go through that exercise before it becomes clear that they are deadlocked?
I mean, Danny might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think generally it is one time. It's one more time after the Allen charge that usually the judge will give. And if by the end of the day tomorrow, I believe they don't even have court scheduled on Thursday before the Friday holiday. And look, if by the end of tomorrow they cannot come to a decision and they really say we are fully hung, I am going to guess that the judge would likely then declare that first count to be a mistrial.
If that were the case, Angela, and I realize we're in the realm of speculation here, but just so we can all get our heads straight ahead of tomorrow, counts 2 through 5 would then be read, correct?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So then counts 2 through 5 would be read, and then the prosecutors would have a choice whether or not they wanted to bring count 1 again or to dismiss those charges. And just given how sprawling we all saw this RICO charge was and how much testimony it required, I would guess that they would be unlikely to bring this RICO charge again, especially given the victims and the anonymity required and just how harrowing it is for these victims to have to testify repeatedly.
Yeah. Angela,
and also note there's still civil lawsuits happening.
That's right. And we'll talk about that. But let me just tell you that we now understand from inside court, the jury has told the judge they're done for the day. They will come back tomorrow, 9 a.m. So this resolves, I think, what we've seen over the course of the last 90 minutes. And while I bring in Chloe Malas here, let me just recap for folks so you're up to speed. Just about a couple of minutes after 4 o'clock, a note came in from the jury. The note suggested that they had reached a verdict on 4 of the 5 counts that Diddy faces. We don't know what that verdict is. They said they could not come to a unanimous verdict on count 1. The judge then brought the judge, the defense, the prosecution. They had a conversation about this in court. Everybody essentially agreed that the jury should try to keep deliberating on that first count. That is what happened. The judge brought the jury into the room, told him, hey, go back in there. I'm going to ask you to keep deliberating. Think about the instructions that I gave you. If you become convinced, you can feel free to change your opinion if you, in fact, so desire that. The jury went back into the room, said, OK, we're done. Back tomorrow morning. That has been, Chloe, a fairly dramatic 90 minutes, to say the least, in the course of this case. Talk us through some of the expectations for tomorrow and what else you're seeing outside court as it's wrapping up now.
That's right. Well, first of all, they are going to be returning tomorrow, like you said, and the judge wants to give them up to 3 tries to try to come to a unanimous verdict. Again, I want to just explain to you the significance of what just happened moments ago when I was inside the overflow room, which is where media and members of the public in a packed courtroom watch what's going on TV screens. And I was sitting next to my fellow journalist and NBC News colleague, Rahema, and we were both looking at the screen and we looked at each other and we said, something is going on. His attorneys huddled around him like a scene out of a movie. And he was sitting there in white, all of his attorneys wearing dark suits, looking very serious, just standing over him. I look forward to you all being able to see what I saw in courtroom sketches, which we should be getting later this evening. But again, Combs physically at one point holding that note, you know, on a small piece of paper and reading it to himself. At one point rubbing his eyes and shaking his head and looking at the floor. Shortly thereafter, several of his children came into the courtroom, 3 of his daughters who were there for closing arguments on Friday. And again, Hallie, we have talked about this every single night of this trial, that the racketeering charge here is so complicated. And during all the different testimony from those 34 witnesses talking about Kid Cudi's car, arson, the security guard at the Intercontinental Hotel in 2016 being paid off by Combs, $100,000 for 2 security guards to make sure that that video that we've now all seen of Cassie Ventura brutally being beaten in a hotel hallway by Combs never saw the light of day. And that video was a central piece of evidence for the prosecution that they played multiple times. But there were moments during these last nearly 2 months where some of these jurors did not look convinced. And I've said it multiple times to you. And Danny Sabalos has always said, Chloe, I warn you, do not try to read the tea leaves of these jurors' expressions. But they were so overt. right? You had some jurors rolling their eyes, shaking their head during some of the prosecution's witnesses. And remember, Combs didn't call a single witness. He did not testify in his own defense. Right. After nearly 2 months of this trial, they rested their case in 30 minutes. And it'll be interesting to see if that is a decision that they stand by when this trial is all over.
Chloe, thank you. Danny, let me go to you because Chloe referenced that video and we played a small snippet of it that was central to the story of Cassie Ventura and what she testified to. One of the other notes that the jury submitted today was about seeing more of the transcript around that moment, right, of the testimony in the days before and after that moment. When that came out, I wonder how you, wearing your sort of defense attorney hat, obviously not on this case, but just in your day job, how did you read that? What did that signal to you if you're looking at that as a tea leaf?
Yeah, if we're talking about the video itself, I mean, the prosecution, the government is very, very good at introducing evidence that is devastating to a defendant's character. And the government's theory of introducing the hotel video was that it was part of the, essentially part of the racketeering conspiracy. It was part of the sex trafficking because he's essentially forcing her to come back to a freak-off with violence, even though this is something that happened back in 2016, and it would never be chargeable now by the federal government. That's a great example of the federal government being excellent at introducing evidence that they know is devastating to Combs. And then in addition, you have the evidence that he allegedly paid off hotel personnel. And that, of course, is fantastic for the government because it shows awareness of what's going on. And even the image of like the brown bag with the cash stuffed into it. Everyone on the jury, they may not understand RICO conspiracies, but they've all seen mafia movies, and they all understand handing over $100,000 in cash in a brown paper bag. They get it, and the government knows it. They're very good at this kind of theater. And yet, you know, the defense argued that, hey, wait a minute, he didn't pay off the mayor, he didn't pay off a senator, he paid off some guy. There's no ongoing investigation. This was not, this again, they minimized it. This is just a strange alternate lifestyle. It may be deplorable. It may not be something you would do, but it is not a federal crime. It's certainly not these complex federal crimes. And of course, as expected, here we are with the jury struggling with the most complicated charge in this case, one that the verdict form took up far more page space than any of the other counts verdicts. So in all likelihood, again, I'm often wrong when I forecast, but yeah, I would expect that this might be a case where the jury has reached verdicts of guilty on counts 2 to 5. I could be wrong. I may be eating those words. Sure. And of course, I am not surprised that they are struggling with the most complicated count, sure, count 1, racketeering conspiracy. Even lawyers struggle with it. It's that hard to understand.
So, Angela, final thoughts to you here. As I should note, Sean Combs, his team, they're sort of cleaning up, finishing up for the day, about to walk out. As we said, his family had returned to the courtroom to hear this note being read. Combs himself, obviously sitting there with his defense team. The prosecution remained seated as there was some discussion. Chloe laid out some of that color from inside court, some discussion around this note, what it would mean, et cetera. Now we know the result. We're all going to be watching starting at 9 a.m. tomorrow to see what happens. Talk me through your expectations and what is next for Diddy, no matter how this verdict turns out. You alluded to those civil cases here. No matter what the decision is from this jury, he will continue to face legal challenges moving forward.
Yeah, so one of the interesting parts of this RICO charge is that any money from any of those enterprises, if he's convicted, would then go to the government, right? So in theory, then he would be totally broke at the end of this. But then also remember, there are dozens of civil lawsuits that are outstanding that have really been on pause until this criminal trial completes itself. And then those civil lawsuits could possibly then also eliminate, right, a bulk, if not all, of his savings, his money, his profit. So if you think about what is the future for Diddy, it looks pretty bleak in all regards. He will likely be behind bars if 2 through 5 are guilty, like many people here are suggesting, and for the rest of his life, right? Very possibly. And then he will also likely have no money. So future is bleak.
Angela Senadella, thank you for your expertise. Danny Savalos, thank you as well. Our thanks also to Chloe Malas and to Laura Jarrett, who scrambled to join us for that big developing news. We're going to have more on that as we learn it tomorrow. But we've also got to get to our other big story of the day, right here in Washington, with the fate of that massive mega bill now in the hands of the House, where Republican leaders are promising they're going to try to work fast to get this bill to the White House by the 4th of July. Listen to the House Speaker.
Do you have the votes? We got more work to do, but it's going to get done. Can this get passed by the end of the week? That's the plan.
That's the plan, he says. That's after this thing squeaked by in the Senate, just barely, after a record 27-hour vote-a-rama to wrap it all up. Here's the big finale moment.
The yeas are 50. The nays are 50. The Senate being evenly divided, the Vice President votes in the affirmative. The bill as amended is passed.
So there it was, Vice President J.D. Vance showing up at the Capitol to break that 50-50 tie after 3 Republicans sided with all 47 Democrats. So a reminder, if this thing does get through the House and passes, the bill will extend those 2017 tax cuts for a decade. It'll slash more than $1 trillion effectively from Medicaid and food assistance programs like SNAP, potentially kicking nearly 12 million people off their insurance within a decade. It'll also let the feds spend billions more on immigration enforcement. I want to bring in our Capitol Hill correspondent, Melanie DeZanona, who was on Capitol Hill. Tacos for dinner, we know, probably also for breakfast after that overnighter. And you've still got more work ahead because while House leadership sounds confident, there are some rumblings from some in the rank and file. How seriously should the White House, should the president be taking those rumblings? Is this bill really in jeopardy?
Yeah, I mean, given the fact that there is a super slim margin in the House, there is very little room for error. They're trying to move very quickly to pass this and get it on Trump's desk by July 4th. So they have to take some of these concerns seriously. There are, by our count, over a dozen Republicans at this point who have said they have some type of concern with this bill. They're either leaning against it or a no right now. That ranges from moderates who are concerned about the steep Medicaid cuts. And we should note the Senate version actually goes even further than the House product in terms of cutting Medicaid. And then you have fiscal conservatives who don't think that the spending cuts go far enough. Now, I will point out, though, these members have been known to fold in the past. They'll make a lot of noise, try to get some assurances and concessions, and ultimately vote for this bill. And that is because Donald Trump is expected to be the driving force behind this bill. There's just going to be so much pressure to fall in line. He has already threatened to primary some of the people who voted against him, like Thomas Massie. He's threatening to vote against this bill in the House when it comes back again. So there's a lot of different dynamics at play. But like you said, the confidence right now is pretty high among the leadership that they'll be able to muscle this through. They feel like they got this big boost of momentum by being able to pass it in the Senate, and that the wind is at their backs. But they still have a lot of work cut out for them here in the House.
It passed in the Senate partly because the senator from Alaska ended up voting for this bill after she got some, I don't know, concessions specifically for Alaska. I want to play this exchange, and I know you've seen it, with your colleague and mine, Ryan Nobles, and Senator Lisa Murkowski, who, again, ended up voting yes after some cajoling from Senate leadership. Listen to this. We're going to play the whole thing.
Senator Paul said that that your vote was a bailout for Alaska at the expense of the rest of the country.
Oh, my God.
That's what Senator Paul said.
My question was easy. Senator, we've got the...
I didn't say it, ma'am. I'm just asking for your response.
My response is I have an obligation to the people of the state of Alaska. And I live up to that every single day. Do I like this bill? No. Because I tried to take care of Alaska's interests.
So first of all, solid stare-down situation. Second of all, you heard her say, do I like this bill? No. She went on to say, in a statement afterwards, I hope the House ends up changing it, because she said she doesn't actually think it's good for the country. Here's the thing, Mel. That's literally not possible, right? Like, the House cannot change this bill. It's done. It's written. There's going to be no more changes if they want to get this done by July 4th.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There is zero indication that the GOP leadership in the House is planning to change this bill. Murkowski did get some specific carve-outs for Alaska, as Ryan was questioning her about there, including some carve-outs for the SNAP cuts, which are food stamps. She also was able to get a $50 billion fund for rural hospitals. That was a concern that a lot of moderates had about some of these Medicaid cuts. She also got a softer phase-out of some clean energy tax credits. So she did get quite a lot. She admitted she improved the bill for Alaska, but doesn't think it goes far enough and hopes that the House improves the bill for the rest of the country. Just a remarkable statement, and what a powerful moment that our Ryan Nobles was able to capture there. I think her silence was worth 1,000 words. She said this was the hardest decision that she has had to make in her long career here on Capitol Hill. And she's had to make a lot of really difficult decisions, particularly when it comes to voting either with Trump or against Trump. But here she ultimately sided with the president.
She sure did. Mel Zanona, consider yourself booked for tomorrow night as well. We'll stay on top of it. Thank you, pal. Appreciate it. You heard Senator Murkowski say she doesn't like this bill. Well, you know who hates it? Elon Musk, with that feud reigniting, exploding again between arguably the most powerful man in the world and the most wealthy man in the world. With President Trump just today not ruling out going so far as to deport Elon Musk.
I don't know. I think we'll have to take a look. We might have to put Doge on Elon. You know what Doge is? Doge is the monster that might have to go back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible?
Okay, so Musk responded to that on X, saying, while it's tempting to escalate this, he will refrain for now. Heavy on the for now. And that's not all. The president suggesting he may go after Musk's businesses, which he says get too many subsidies. That threat sent Tesla's stock spiraling today, down something like 5%. And what a world, folks. What a moment, considering we are all old enough to remember this. Just a couple of months ago, what was basically a Tesla ad alongside Elon Musk on the White House South Lawn. The president even got one. Like, these guys used to be best buds, basically. They were side by side through the campaign. Musk spent millions of dollars to help the president's reelection. Monica Alba is outside the White House, which is all to say there is like just a sort of dramatic spectacle to this, but it goes beyond that, too. There are policy components to this, right? There are real political reverberations that could happen when you look at, for example, the president's threat to cut off Musk's businesses, which are really intertwined in the government here. What are you hearing about how seriously the president is considering this, or is he blowing off some steam?
Yeah, and what is time, Hallie? Because, of course, that was just a short time ago, and here we are, and this feud was very much alive about a month ago, and then it was dormant, and now it's back again. So this is something that we have really seen ping pong, and I think will continue to drag out. But when you talk about these specific government contracts, this is something that the president threatened perhaps revoking before, and we were told at the time there's so much that is intertwined with something like Starlink and the Department of Defense or SpaceX and NASA, that it would be really, really significant if the president went ahead with that step of actually revoking those government contracts from Elon Musk's businesses. So a few weeks ago, the mood on that was, yeah, he may say that, but he likely won't do it. Is there something that really he would want to back that up with? We don't know. And at the same time, the two men basically traded every insult under the sun. So today, we're now seeing that again be revived. But as Elon Musk hinted, he could even escalate it further. He's going to refrain from now. It was sort of said in jest from the president, too. And so I think that is a little bit of this game that they're playing and that they certainly will continue to engage on.
I mean, is it a game? You know, Elon Musk has been a citizen, I think, for more than 20 years, an American citizen. Is it could he cancel it? Could he deport him?
Well, we know that the Department of Justice is looking at this a lot more closely for potential U.S. citizens that they say commit crimes, and then there could be a procedure of stripping them of their citizenship. Now, there's nobody here saying that that is what the president is going to do with Elon Musk specifically, to be very, very clear, but it's something that has been talked about more broadly and has already happened in the case of one U.S. citizen that this Department of Justice said did commit a crime. So had there been some linkage there, or if this story again expands to another place, possibly, and you saw the president sort of not ruling it out in his jesting way. So it's a storyline that continues to have oxygen. But again, it's not something that this White House is seriously looking at.
But it's not as though Elon Musk is coming to the table with nothing in his arsenal, because he has $1 bajillion, right? And that can be used to great effect, potentially. Musk posted about the betting odds spiking for him to create a third party, this so-called America Party that he keeps talking about. And he has said if this bill passes the House, if it's signed into law, the mega bill we just talked about with Mel, he would immediately create this third party. Remember, this is a guy that spent a ton of money in the 2024 campaign. He clearly is willing to get involved from that level. And that, again, could be part of the political reverberation from the fallout of this friendship.
Absolutely. And he said he would fund Republican Congressman Thomas Massey's next reelection fight and basically write him a blank check. And it was notable that Thomas Massey, for his part, said, like, I don't even really know Elon, but that's cool, and replied to him saying, you're awesome. Okay, let's set it up. The question now is that you have kind of this proxy war, of course, between the president and Elon Musk, because President Trump is the one saying we are going to essentially primary any Republican who votes against it, and he feels that his political might is far larger than that of Elon Musk. So more to come on this, Hallie. Not the last time we're discussing it.
You'll be there to cover it all for us. Monica Alba, thank you, friend. Appreciate it. Coming up here, much more to get to on an already very busy news night, including why the families of the college students allegedly killed by Bryan Kohberger appear divided over news of that apparent plea deal that we brought you here yesterday. We'll tell you what we're hearing from those families today. The victims' families in Idaho appear drastically divided tonight as the accused killer in the University of Idaho murders is set to appear in court tomorrow. We're talking about Bryan Kohberger, set to enter, we believe, that plea deal that he has reached, as we've learned and brought you last night on the show, with prosecutors here. A hearing that we're now learning may be live streamed. That's the breaking news we brought you a little less than 24 hours ago. Kohberger set to plead guilty for the murder of these 4 University of Idaho students: Ethan Chapin, Zana Kernodle, Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonzalez. He's accused of stabbing and killing them in 2022. On one hand, you've got the family of Ethan Chapin saying that they support the apparent plea deal. They say they do plan to be there in court tomorrow. But it is a very different sentiment from the family of Kaylee Gonzalez, who said, we will not stop fighting for the life that was stolen unjustly. Kaylee's father says he is going to be outside court tomorrow. As for Madison Mogen, her father tells CBS News he was relieved to hear about the potential deal. Camila Bernal is following the story for us. The most horrific nightmare that these families have had to live through for the last 3 years. And now, essentially having to release statements about how they feel about this plea deal. You had Kaylee Gonzalez's dad saying, Idaho failed his entire family by doing this, even as others suggest that perhaps there will be more closure for the families with a deal like this. How much might the judge take these thoughts into perspective, and what do we expect at this hearing tomorrow?
Look, it's unlikely that the judge will look at this to consider it in terms of the plea deal, but it really is unclear what the judge is going to decide to do tomorrow. And despite all of this, the Gonzalez's family, they are asking the public, Hallie, to go and to call the judge, to email the judge, to contact the county. That's why, like you said before, they're saying they're going to continue to fight. That's the way they see themselves fighting over the next few hours before this hearing tomorrow. In fact, they even updated everything and said that the voicemail is full for the phone number that they posted online for the judge. So they're asking the country to call, but it's unclear if the judge is even going to receive all of these messages. But what they're saying here is that even if the death penalty is off the table, what they would want to see is a full confession. They want the facts. They want to know where the weapon is, if he acted alone. It's likely that they're not going to get any answers to any of this. We'll see. Hallie?
You also have People magazine speaking now exclusively with some of the best friends of the victims about the moment that they found out about what had happened. Talk us through that.
Yeah, so Hunter Johnson, he's the one that found the bodies, and he spoke to People magazine along with another friend, and they said that that was literally the last day that they saw themselves as college kids, that they lost their innocence that day. And Hunter was saying that at 3 in the morning that night on Sunday, he felt like something in his soul was telling him to go lock his door. He said he'd never done that before, but that's exactly what they did that night. And then when they found the bodies, he said this, I was like, what is going on? Is this real? Then you realize the gravity of what you just walked into at that moment. You don't really realize what you walked into until you really look around and process it. Look, all of the witnesses that were expected at trial, the list of those witnesses, that has been sealed. It's likely that Hunter would have been on one of those lists. We would have maybe gotten more information. But again, if we don't have a trial, we're not going to get to see any of this. And maybe we will get the witness list eventually when it's unsealed. But in the moment, we we are going to still have a lot of questions, Hallie.
Camila Bernal, lots to watch tomorrow. We will, of course, have coverage right here on NBC News Now of that. Camila, thank you. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, televangelist Jimmy Swaggart has died at the age of 90, according to his family. He was one of the first preachers to bring his ministry to television in the 70s and 80s before a sex scandal disrupted his career. He'd been hospitalized after a cardiac arrest earlier this month. Number 2, the British punk group Bob Vylan responding to criticism after they apparently led people in chanting death against Israel's military during the UK's biggest music festival. The duo says the chant actually called for an end to Israel's military program, which they say has destroyed Gaza, and that they're not calling for the death of Jewish people or any other group. Number 3, the Education Department says the University of Pennsylvania is agreeing to ban transgender women from its sports teams to resolve a federal civil rights case. The case focused on Leah Thomas, who became the first openly trans athlete to win a D1 title when she swam for Penn. The DOE says Penn also agreed to send an apology letter to swimmers who lost races to Thomas. Number 4, a buying Beverly Hills star filing a new lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors over its rules on who can access listings. Mauricio Umansky says it limits how competitive realtors can be and that the trade group created a policy to target would-be competitors, like his now defunct private listing site. A rep for the Realtors Association told us its policy promotes transparency and competition and that it'll respond to Umansky's claims in court. His reps have not responded to our request for comment. Number 5, the NBA MVP is now also the league's highest paid player ever. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander reportedly agreeing to a new deal with the Thunder in Oklahoma City, the team he just led to the championship. They'll pay him $285 million over 4 years. That's a cool $70 million a season. That's a solid. Coming up, much more to get to ahead of your July 4th holiday, including how potentially dangerous bacteria could really mess up a whole lot of beach vacations coast to coast. Plus, the new charges coming for a man accused of assaulting another passenger on a flight to Miami. We've got the video of this pretty wild midair fight. To a new and growing threat at beaches across the country, which could really throw a wrench into your July 4th holiday plans. Don't get mad at the messenger, but state officials around the country say they're closing more and more beaches because of high levels of a bacteria that could make swimmers super sick. Look at the map here from coast to coast beach closures, including 20 in Massachusetts alone, because of excessive levels of a bacteria known as Vibrio. It's Vibrio that they're finding in the water. Let's go to NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar. You don't want to mess around with this to the point that if this is in your area, your beach is probably already shutting down, right?
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. So let's think about it this way. There's about 80,000 infections with Vibrio every year. The majority of them actually happen from exposure to contaminated food like uncooked or undercooked raw shellfish. But the remainder are from exposure to coastal waters. Vibrio naturally exists in these waters, and they really increase in number during the summer months, exactly when people are obviously going to the beach. And the biggest concern is if you have, let's say, an open wound or something, and you become exposed to Vibrio in the water, that can lead to a significant wound infection. You might have heard of necrotizing fasciitis or that flesh-eating bacteria. That's the complication that we worry about when we have a wound infection with Vibrio. But if you're contaminated and you get a gastrointestinal illness, that's like diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, which can also be quite serious in certain cases.
You know, people might think, wait a second, Vibrio, where have I heard that before? We talked about it a bunch, I think it was a couple summers ago, because there was an issue with, you mentioned undercooked shellfish, from oysters. And that is, you know, remains kind of a persistent problem. What's the level of concern now about Vibrio and shellfish?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always a concern to a degree. And I think, again, during the summer months, when we know that Vibrio counts are higher in the waters where the shellfish are coming from, people need to be concerned. And anyone can get sick from Vibrio at any time. But if you're immunocompromised, you're at especially high risk. And what you need to do, first of all, if you're getting shellfish, if you're going to a restaurant or you're buying it yourself, you need to make sure it's coming from a reputable source, and you need to make sure that they are cooked. They need to be cooked at 145 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 15 seconds. That's the internal temperature. And that way you can be, you know, as sure as you can be that you've actually killed the Vibrio bacteria.
Dr. Natalie Azar, good info, good intel as we head into July 4th. Thank you very much. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Western Bureau, a Utah mom is now facing new charges for alleged financial crimes related to her husband's death. Remember Corey Rishens? She pleaded not guilty to killing her husband back in 2022, then published a children's book about how to cope with grief. Her lawyers call the new charges extremely troubling. The murder trial is set to start in February. Out of our Northeast Bureau, it is officially official. Zohran Mamdani coming out on top in the Democratic primary election for New York City mayor, according to NBC projections. He beat out Andrew Cuomo in that primary, but it may not be over for Cuomo since the former governor is forming his own political party that could be on the ballot come November. Mamdani will also face now independent candidate, the current mayor, Eric Adams. Out of our Southern Bureau, big fight on a flight out of Miami, ending with one man now facing assault charges. You see one of the pictures there. This appears to show the two men, look at this video, tackling each other. Like, look at that. They're like over the seat back. It looks like one of the maybe flight attendants or another passenger is kind of watching. The victim told police the 21-year-old suspect grabbed him by the neck as he was heading back to his seat. We still don't know why or what they were fighting about in the first place. Coming up here on the show, this record-setting heat is not the only thing shocking some of tennis's biggest stars. Why Wimbledon's grass looked less like a friend, more like a foe to one of America's hottest names. So as the temperatures have gone up at Wimbledon, some of the world's biggest stars have gone down with huge upsets in the first round, including, I hate to say it, Coco Gauff, America's biggest star, arguably. One of the big questions going into the tournament was how she would do playing on the grass. The answer? Not as well as everybody, had hoped, I think. If you wanted to see her win, the number 2 ranked player and French Open champ was beaten in straight sets. The number 3 ranked player was also knocked out today in her first round, Jessica Pegula. First time 2 of the top 3 seeds have lost this early at Wimbledon. Danielle Hamamjian is joining us now. So what is it? Is it just kind of like a weird, quirky day? Is it the fact that there's this massive heat wave where you are in London? What's going on?
Your guess is as good as mine, Hallie. When Coco Gauff won the French Open last month, she appeared on the Today Show, and she told our colleagues there that this was uncharted territory for her, that she was going into this tournament behind me, having just won the French Open, and was curious, she said, about what she would learn from this experience. Well, fast forward to day 2 of this tournament, and there are a lot of lessons to be learned for Coco Gauff. It was not meant to be. It was mistake after mistake. She was really struggling with her serve, and you could see it on her face. In the end, she lost 7-6, 6-1 to Diana Yastremska, a Ukrainian opponent. A difficult first-round draw for her. She should have beaten her, but also her opponent had the potential to cause quite the upset, and she certainly did. The biggest challenge for Coco Gauff was that quick transition from clay to grass, which you mentioned earlier, which she admits is not her best surface, and she was very busy in the past few weeks. Media appearances, other tournaments, and look, this place, she's just 21 years old, but this place has so much history for her. It was here back when she was 15 years old, back in 2019, that she beat one of her heroes, Venus Williams, but since then, has never won Wimbledon and has never made it past the 4th round. A shocker for Coco Gauff, as you mentioned, the 2nd ranked tennis player in the world for women's tennis.
Yeah.
A shocker for her, a huge disappointment, no doubt.
Before we let you go, Danielle, though, what's going on over on the men's side? Upsets there, too?
Oh, my goodness. A long list of top-seeded men who did not make it past the first round. 4 out of the top 10. They are the 3rd, the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th best in the world, crashing out in the first round. But Novak Djokovic back for his 25th Grand Slam title. And guess what? He made it. He made it past the first round. He is going through.
Danielle Hamamjian, tomorrow we've got to get you inside. We'll get you a seat in the stands there for your reporting on all of it. Thank you so much for being there for us live in London. Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate it. And thanks to all of you for watching on yet another very busy news night. That's a wrap for this hour, but we've got more coverage picking up right now. We are coming on the air with the jury in the Diddy trial reaching a partial verdict, but their job not done. The judge wants them back bright and early tomorrow morning to deliberate more on the one count they still can't come to agreement on. So what are the tea leaves we can read from this very dramatic 90 minutes in court? We're going to break it down with our legal team and our team outside the courthouse. Then holiday travel trouble making a mess for millions of us. Tons of flights grounded because of nasty weather with more storms on the way. We'll take you to one big airport live with what to expect for the 4th of July. We're also live here in Washington with President Trump's mega bill, a big step closer to reality. Skating by in the Senate. Now it's the House's turn. But not before this tellingly uncomfortable moment with Alaska's senator as she was pressed by our reporter.
Senator Paul said that that your vote was a bailout for Alaska at the expense of the rest of the country.
Oh, my God.
That's what Senator Paul said.
What she said, and the chances this thing becomes law next. Then the potential punishment proposed by the president to his former friend, the world's richest man, over his opposition to that bill.
I don't know. I think we'll have to take a look. We might have to put Doge on Elon.
How Elon Musk himself may be deploying his millions to clap back. Plus, why Waffle House is backing down on that egg price hike. What does it mean for you in the grocery store? We'll explain a little bit later in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and tonight we are coming on the air with breaking news. The jury in Diddy's massive sex trafficking trial, that bombshell trial, they are set to come back tomorrow to court, 9 a.m. Eastern time, to deliberate on the one count they were not able to get to a verdict on today. I want to show you the scene in just the last half hour. This is Sean Combs' family leaving after this tense evening in court. As we all found out together that the jury got to a verdict on 4 of the 5 counts Combs is facing. The family had come back to the court to watch that read. They left again. Our reporters inside the room saw Combs get up to leave. He turned to his family, blew a kiss, and said, "See you tomorrow," telling them, "It'll be all right. I love you." So this is where we are at now, just to bring you up to speed here. There is a verdict. We don't know what the verdict is, but there is a verdict on counts 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those include the sex trafficking charges and the transportation to engage in prostitution charges. The first one is the one we're missing. This is the most complicated one. Racketeering conspiracy. We've talked about this a lot. This one is really involved. There's a lot to it. We're going to get into that. We also know that earlier today, jurors had asked for transcripts of some critical testimony involving what Cassie Ventura had to say on the stand. Remember, she's Diddy's on-again, off-again girlfriend. They also wanted to see testimony from a sex worker that Combs hired for his so-called freak-offs with Cassie Ventura. Combs has pleaded not guilty to all the charges he's facing, and his team says all the sexual encounters he had were consensual. I want to bring in our senior legal correspondent, Laura Jarrett, as we start, too, with Rahima Ellis, who is joining us outside the courthouse. Rahima, you were in the overflow room as this was all happening, and there was a lot going on in the courtroom with Diddy, with his defense team, with the judge, as this was happening, as the jury announced that they had this verdict on 4 of the 5 charges.
Yeah, Hallie, let me set the scene for you. I rode up in the elevator with Sean Diddy Combs' lead attorney, Mark Agnifilo, and he was affable. He was smiling. We shook hands, and then he got off on floor 26. I then went to floor 24, which is the overflow courtroom. 26 is where the main courtroom is. And the picture of his face completely changed. There was this sense of discomfort. I think that's the way I should put it. And what they were doing at that point is they were trying to comfort Combs. They huddled around him. He has a large team of defense attorneys working here with him. They literally formed a semicircle around him. They put their hands on his shoulder. And some of the attorneys themselves, they were holding and hugging one another. Combs, his head was bent, he was bowed. And you could feel, even from the room that I was in, which was the overflow room, there were big television screens. You could get this sense of discomfort in the room where he was with his attorneys in that courtroom when they have heard that now there has been a decision of these 5 counts, as you point out. 2 of the 5 they've made a decision about. We don't know what it is, but they are deadlocked on that first count. He at one point had turned, as you point, he turned to his family when his children came in. His mother had been sitting there all the time. her demeanor even changed as she saw the team around him change. At first, she was sort of sitting casually, her arm draped over the seat of her chair. And then as it got more intense with his attorneys, she sat up and she seemed to be more intense as well. It was an extraordinary moment to see how palpable it was, that feeling of discomfort, even just from the screen, Hallie.
And Rama, back at 9 a.m. tomorrow, right? The jury's going to come back in. They're going to go back in and keep deliberating per the judge's orders?
They are. In fact, there was a lot of discussion about what to do. Should they try to get them to talk a little bit more today? In fact, they did go back into the jury room, and the judge said, if you want to, if you decide that you can't do any more today, send me a note. They went back into the courtroom, that note saying we've had it for today. It has been a long day for them. And so he sent them home, but he sent them home with the notion that you're going to come back tomorrow and give this another try. He's not ready quite yet to call it quits on this and then to read the verdict of whatever it is on those counts 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we'll see what happens. I should tell you that there was also a discussion between the attorneys as to whether or not they should tell the jurors that they have an option of coming back on Thursday. It's the beginning of a holiday week here for the court. But they have made it known that the jurors could deliberate on Thursday. They held off on telling them that today. They are hopeful that they might be able to reach some sort of conclusion tomorrow, Hallie.
Rahema Ellis, man, watching it all, in it all, riding the elevator there at the courthouse there in New York. Rahema, thank you very much. Laura, let me bring you into this because it feels fair to say that if there was going to be a count that the jury would end up hung up on or would get hung up on, it would have been this first count, the racketeering conspiracy. Why is it so complicated?
Because it's messy, and it's because most people, when they think about racketeering, they think about the mob. They think about running drugs, running guns, and maybe they think about even using women, but I think they think about sort of that Sean Diddy Combs would be selling women to other people as opposed to having people procure women for his own personal use. And that's where I think the defense tried to paint sort of a different picture and one of somebody who is troubled, someone who is flawed in their words, but someone who is not a criminal, someone who is not engaged in racketeering. And I think because they have to find that there was an illegal agreement, that he was working with others who have not been charged in this case, and that he has to have engaged in at least 2 criminal acts with somebody else, there's just a lot for them to work through. And so I think that's why the racketeering in particular could be tripping them up. Now, it doesn't mean that they won't find a way to reach a unanimous verdict tomorrow. We've certainly seen that happen. We've all seen plenty of cases where a jury seems deadlocked. They come back, the judge says, I want you to keep going. And then what do you know, tomorrow we get a unanimous verdict on that. But because we knew yesterday there was at least one juror who was reported as being so entrenched in their views that they were not willing to follow the instructions, at least according to the foreman, this was foreshadowed, at least somewhat. And we don't know if that is the same juror that's having trouble today. At least today it was reported that jurors were having trouble and were sort of dug in on their views. So we'll just have to wait and see whether they can become unstuck.
Yeah. We also know, too, Laura, even before we got word of these this partial verdict here, that the jury was particularly interested in some testimony very specifically related to this altercation that we've shown the video of between Cassie Ventura and Diddy, where he was seen in the hallway of that hotel in that surveillance video. We're showing it here just very briefly, essentially kicking her, dragging her, et cetera. When that note came back, when you heard that the jury wanted to know more around that moment, how did you interpret that? What tea leaf reading could you do from that?
My interpretation was that they're hashing out whether that's sex trafficking, whether that's coercion, whether that's force, right? Because that's one of the things that they're looking at here. Just having someone cross state lines for the purposes of sex can actually be criminal. That can be a federal crime. It's one of the things he's charged with. But he's also charged with something that's more significant. And it's when you use coercion, when you use threats, when you use force, that's what bumps it up to something that could put him behind bars for the rest of his life. And so I think the jury is hashing that out. I think the video, Hallie, as we all know, we've seen it, is striking. And I think it's got to be one of the biggest pieces of evidence that they are grappling with.
Yeah, it's really visceral. Rahema, I know you wanted to jump back in here, too.
I do, because I think that what Laura was saying is so on point. Yesterday, only after an hour of deliberating, the jurors came back and said there is one juror who is not following Your Honor's instructions. Today, what we have is they have jurors, we have 8 men and 4 women who have come to a unanimous decision about 2, 3, 4, and 5 in terms of the counts. But they also said there are now jurors who are unpersuadable. That's the word that they use in terms of speaking to the judge about why they were deadlocked at this moment. Whether or not they will be able to do tomorrow what they were able to do between yesterday and today, going from one juror who wasn't following the judge's instructions to all 12 of them coming to a conclusion about 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the counts. Right. That remains to be seen, but certainly the judge is going to try and encourage them to try and do that.
You heard the discussion that the judge wanted them to do that, follow his instructions. Laura, just to, as we look ahead to tomorrow, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they come back 9 a.m. after an hour, they come back and say, no, they're still not persuadable, or somebody's still not persuadable. This thing could keep dragging in that way,
so the question is, how many times does he tell them, no, you got to go back? And at a certain point, if they are so entrenched that they truly cannot reach a unanimous verdict on count 1, Hallie, then the judge will say, okay, I'm going to declare that they are deadlocked on that 1, but I will have them read the verdict on the rest of the count. So it's not as if they're deadlocked on count 1. We won't find out about the rest of them. We will. And not saying that that's what's going to happen, but I've certainly seen sort of those mixed verdicts before. And remember, the other counts that he's facing there on 2 through 5 are significant. We talk about the RICO because that's the one that sort of headline grabbed me, but the 2 through 5 are nothing to sneeze at. Again, there are counts there that would trigger a potential maximum sentence of life behind bars if convicted. So they are still
and I believe
very
mandatory minimum of 15 years on the sex trafficking charges too, right?
It's significant.
So no one's sneezing at that. Laura Jarrett, Rahim Ellis, we're so glad to have both of you on a very busy night in New York. Thanks for being with us, and I know we'll talk again tomorrow, I'm sure. Got to get to another major story that's happening tonight, though. That big mess for travelers as we look ahead to the holiday weekend with already thousands of cancellations and flight delays across the country and intense weather threatening to throw an even bigger wrench in people's plans. Take a look. More than 5,000 delayed flights, 1,200 canceled, a record number of Americans expected to head out for July 4th. Ground stops and delays into and out of airports up and down the East Coast. Every New York airport, Philly, Baltimore, here in D.C. Look at Newark. You have a bunch of nervous travelers, right? They're waiting around. Are they going to get out or not? What's going on? Some 200 flights have been delayed or canceled. The TSA is only expecting things to get busier, planning to screen nearly 19 million people at airports between today and next Monday. It's also not helping that millions of people and a lot of planes may be in the path of severe weather threats, thunderstorms, flash flooding, potentially hail, big-time wind that could grind holiday travel to a halt. Look here in New Jersey, a street washed out with more downpours on the way. NBC's Tom Costello has posted up at Newark Airport for us tonight. It's like the sad trombone moment. You know, everybody's getting ready to go out on their beach or their holiday vacations for the 4th, but it's going to maybe be a journey to get there.
I would say yesterday was bad. Today, right now, it's worse. We've got significant ground delays, ground stops at airports stretching all the way from Washington, D.C., all the way up through New York, all the way to Boston. This flight here, these folks are lined up to go to Amsterdam over the July 4th week, and they're hoping that they can start boarding. But listen, they've got significant delays here. You mentioned what's happening specifically in the New York City area. Let me just detail some of this. Right now, we've got ground delays in effect, ground delays at Boston and also at Reagan National. Ground stops. Planes are not moving at the following airports: Newark, LaGuardia, JFK, BWI, Dulles, DCA. Reagan has gone from ground stop to ground delay. Things are improving as the weather moves from south up to north. So these folks all are looking forward to, they're hoping that they get out pretty soon because they don't want to be standing in this line throughout the evening. We don't know when Newark is going to be back up to normal operations. It's encouraging that they're boarding this flight already. But is that kind of wishful thinking? We simply don't know. I'll tell you that the FAA has made it very clear where we are right now. At the moment, 5,600 delays system-wide. I got 1,300 cancellations right now. So this is an ongoing problem because of the storms. You know, that incredible heat that we have in much of the country, and especially on the East Coast, it just starts boiling and creates this very volatile weather. And that is the enemy for summer travel, as you know. We saw this last night at Newark and throughout the area. But, Hallie, the reason we're at Newark is because this has been an incredible turnaround story. You may recall that it was just 2 months ago that everything here was going nowhere fast, a virtual meltdown for several reasons. Air traffic control, a runway was out of service. Well, guess what? The runway is back open, as we've been reporting. Air traffic control starting to see incremental progress. And I said this yesterday, but it's just head spinning. Now United says this is the most on-time airport in the entire New York City area. So it's just a testament to how much things have started to improve. Yeah.
Yeah. That is for sure. Tom Costello on his beat there at the airport. Tom, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Appreciate you being there. And by the way, if you're headed to the beach, the hiccups may not end even once you get to your destination. We're going to talk about the closures later in the show because of a bacteria that you don't want to catch. That's coming up in just a bit. Let's bring you back here to Washington because the fate of that massive mega bill is now in the hands of the House, where Republican leaders promise they're going to try to work fast and get this thing to the White House by the 4th of July. Listen to the House Speaker.
Do you have the votes? We got more work to do, but it's going to get done. Can this get passed by the end of the week? That's the plan.
That's the plan, he says. That's after this bill squeaked by in the Senate just barely after a record 27-hour vote-a-rama overnight to wrap it all up. Here's the big finale moment.
The yeas are 50. The nays are 50. The Senate being evenly divided, the vice president votes in the affirmative. The bill as amended is passed.
Vice President J.D. Vance there breaking that 50-50 tie after 3 Republicans sided with all 47 Democrats to bring the total, of course, to 50. As a reminder, if this bill does end up making it through the House and the president signs it, it's going to extend those 2017 tax cuts for a decade. It'll slash more than $1 trillion from Medicaid and from programs like SNAP. It'll potentially kick nearly 12 million people off of their health insurance within a decade. And it'll let the feds spend billions more on immigration enforcement. I want to bring in Melanie Zanona, who's on Capitol Hill for us tonight. Okay, so here we go. Pressure is on. The president has a self-imposed deadline, we should say. There's no, mechanism. He just wants it done by the 4th of July. The speaker's confident that can happen. Is that confidence well-placed based on your conversations, or should he have reason to be nervous?
Well, based on what members are saying publicly, he shouldn't be confident. But based on how things have gone around here all year with members caving at the last minute to support Trump, that explains where the confidence is probably coming from. That being said, Speaker Johnson still has a lot of work to do to get this bill on Trump's desk by that self-imposed July 4th deadline. By our count, there are at least a dozen holdouts from everyone from fiscal conservatives who think that the Senate bill doesn't go far enough to institute spending cuts, to more moderate Republicans who are really worried about the impact of things like Medicaid cuts and cuts to food stamps. And so the question, though, is what can Johnson give these members to assuage them, to get them to yes? Because he does not want to change the Senate bill. That would really slow down the process. If they make any more changes to the bill, it would have to go back to the Senate and really slow down their plans for a big symbolic July 4th bill signing here. So right now, Johnson is huddling with 2 key conservative holdouts on the sidelines of a House Rules Committee meeting. That is going to be the first step to get the ball moving in the House. But it could run into some early hurdles. We'll get our first glimpse, though, tomorrow when they plan to bring that rule to the floor.
Okay, so first glimpse tomorrow after it made it through the Senate, which gave us this very interesting glimpse into some of the infighting here and how this thing ended up getting passed altogether. Republican Senator Rand Paul, he was one of the 3 Republican defectors. He blasted Senate leadership here. He wasn't happy, among other things, among many things, with what he called a bailout that Alaska got to win the vote of Lisa Murkowski, the more moderate Republican senator. And I've got to play this moment between our Ryan Nobles, your friend and colleague and mine, and Senator Murkowski when he asked her about those remarks. It's pretty telling. Here it is.
Senator Paul said that that your vote was a bailout for Alaska at the expense of the rest of the country.
Oh, my God.
That's what Senator Paul said.
My question was easy. Senator, we've got the...
I didn't say it, ma'am. I'm just asking for your response.
My response is I have an obligation to the people of the state of Alaska. And I live up to that every single day. Do I like this bill? No, because I tried to take care of Alaska's interests.
Okay, so Mel, so Alaska, you're cool. Her concern is for the other 49 states, considering what this bill does to those social safety nets that many low-income Americans rely on here. That may end up being a sticking point on the House side, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And despite the fact that Trump said they were not going to cut Medicaid, the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates that over 10 million people are going to lose their health insurance if this bill passes. I mean, there are over $1 trillion, almost $1 trillion, I should say, worth of cuts to Medicaid. The Senate product goes even further than the House. So this is a big concern for moderates, not just for the impact it's going to have on their constituents, but also for their own political futures. Privately, there is a lot of concern that if they pass this bill, it's going to lead to an electoral wipeout for Republicans in 2026. But so far, GOP leadership and Trump brushing aside those concerns.
Melanie Zanona working it, I know, on her beat, Capitol Hill. We'll see you tomorrow, I'm sure. Thank you, Mel. Appreciate it. So you heard Senator Murkowski say she doesn't like the bill. You know who hates it? Elon Musk. With this feud reigniting, exploding again between arguably the most powerful man in the world and the richest man in the world. With the president just today not ruling out going so far as to deport Elon Musk. Look at this.
I don't know. I think we'll have to take a look. We might have to put Doge on Elon. You know what Doge is? Doge is the monster that might have to go back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible?
Metaphorically, of course, with Musk responding to that quote on X, saying, while it is tempting to escalate this, he will refrain for now. Heavy on the for now. But that's not all. The president suggesting he may go after Musk's businesses, which he says get too many subsidies. A threat that sent Tesla stocks spiraling. Look at this, down 5% today. And what a world, folks. What a moment, considering we are all old enough to remember this, right? This Tesla showroom that was set up on the White House South Lawn, basically. The president even got one. He got a Tesla. These guys were besties, basically. Right? I mean, they were side by side in the Oval, side by side on the campaign trail, and Musk spent millions of dollars to help the president's reelection. And yet, Peter Alexander, our chief White House correspondent, here we are, as this has fallen apart in a dramatic and, spectacle of a way yet again here. What's interesting beyond, I think, just the drama of it are the real reverberations politically and from a policy perspective here. Each of these men have weapons in their arsenal, political weapons in their arsenal. For Musk, it is money. He has floated the possibility of not just helping to back people that are thorns in the president's side in Congress, but also maybe a third party. He's calling it the America Party. He's reposting this betting odds that went way up today that Musk would actually follow through on that threat. Give me a sense from your conversations as to how seriously the White House is taking some of those threats today.
Yeah, I've gambled on football before, but never on the potential for a future political party by Elon Musk here.
Like,
but I mean, clearly, there are a lot of people paying attention to this, Hallie, as you note. Right now, the president himself was asked about this sort of idea a bit earlier. He said, in effect, that his endorsement has proven and remains more valuable than any of Elon Musk's money, but no one has the kind of money that Elon Musk has here. So if he does want to do something with this, there is the potential he could certainly make life a lot more complicated for Republican candidates heading into the 2026 midterms. To be clear, that's still 17 months away right now. But is it related to this specific bill, the one big beautiful bill as the president has branded it? We might find an answer to Musk's thoughts pretty darn soon, because Musk said if this, in his words, insane spending bill passes, he would be launching this America Party, as he describes it, just one day later. So it just passed the Senate. We might find out if he has real plans to do anything about it real soon.
Yeah, no kidding. Like as soon as this weekend, potentially. And yet President Trump, he also has political weapons in his arsenal as well. Assuming this friendship really is done and dusted here, how seriously is the president thinking about canceling subsidies? We know that these government contracts that Musk is tied up in are very real. Tesla, stakeholders, I think, consider that a very real threat as well.
Yeah, Tesla, as you noted, has obviously been really impacted by these threats by the president right now, dropping another 5+% today. The Washington Post did an analysis, Hallie, and this was pretty striking. They said that Elon Musk's companies have received $38 billion in government subsidies, in contracts, in tax credits, and beyond right now. But it's not something the president can just say, even if it may have been in jest when he spoke about it earlier. But if he were serious about it, and you wouldn't put it past him that this potential exists there if he became furious in real terms with Musk, the bottom line is that a lot of this stuff is tied together. NASA and SpaceX. SpaceX has what's called the Falcon 9 rocket. It's done 396 missions that it's completed so far. NASA relies on it as the workhorse vehicle to go into orbit these days. This wouldn't be easy, but there's also the real potential that you could try to, that the president thinks this elimination of the EV credits could be what Musk is most impacted by. Take a listen to President Trump.
He's upset that he's losing his EV mandate, and he's he's very upset about things, but he could lose a lot more than that. I can tell you right now. Hey, Elon can lose a lot more than that.
A lot more than that, as we were referring to before, of course, if it did affect Tesla. Tesla is the country's largest EV maker. It could really have a big impact going forward, Hallie.
Never a dull on your beat. Peter Alexander there on the North Lawn. Peter, thank you so much. So as you heard Peter talk about, as we talked about with President Trump floating this idea of maybe deporting Musk, or at least not ruling it out, he's also not dismissing the idea of deporting American citizens who he says committed crimes. Look.
They're not new to our country. They're old to our country. Many of them were born in our country. I think we ought to get them the hell out of here, too. You want to know the truth. So maybe that'll be the next job that we'll work on together.
So that's President Trump, and here he is at this new immigration detention center in Florida. He was there touring bunks alongside the state's governor and his Homeland Security director, a place they call Alligator Alcatraz, coming together really quickly, just about a week, even with several lawsuits, all in the middle of the Everglades. Think about that climate, right? It's hot, it's swampy, there's a ton of mosquitoes, there's gators, pythons, etc. There's Gabe Gutierrez, who is also there for us tonight live in South Florida. This is getting a ton of pushback, Gabe, but the president was very happy to go down and essentially show it off here. Talk us through this, because it is meant to help with the capacity for ICE detention centers, which has become an issue for the Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. Look, I can confirm it is hot, it is swampy, and just behind me on the other side of there's a canal where there is a gator, a live gator that I just saw a short time ago. But yes, the Department of Homeland Security says this is necessary because space around the country is about 140% capacity. This particular facility will house up to 3,000 undocumented immigrants as they're prepared to be deported. This has an existing airfield here, and that's part of the reason why officials say that this is so necessary and convenient in many ways. And you said this came up, this was built in about a week. Really remarkable. Yes, 8 days that this was all constructed in the middle of the Florida Everglades. However, there is a lot of controversy, as you alluded to. Environmental groups are suing to prevent this from happening. Officials with DHS and the White House say that they expect to have detainees here within the next 24 hours. Now, a short time ago, I actually took a tour of the facility with ICE's acting director, Todd Lyons. Here's some of what he told me.
Is the administration still going after the worst of the worst?
We are. Like I said, that's my commitment, is that we are still going after the worst of the worst. But like any law enforcement agency, if we do encounter someone on the outside, or through the course of another law enforcement investigation, we do come across people that are just here illegally, we will no longer turn a blind eye to that.
And Hallie, that question was based on an NBC review of ICE data, which shows that only about half of the people that ICE has arrested had either criminal records, been charged with a crime, or convicted of a crime. Still, the administration says that while the priority is national security threats, they are still arresting those who are in this country illegally because, in their view, they're breaking the law, Hallie.
Gabe, really quickly, just before your shot glitches out here, there were also protesters, right, demonstrators who are really upset that we're outside this area today.
Yeah, that's right. I mentioned the environmental groups that were suing. And with regards to the communication, yes, we are far out into the Everglades, so it is difficult to even get cell service out here. I spoke to some of those protesters earlier today. Let's listen to what they said.
Leave the people alone. They're here because they wanted to create a better life for themselves, you know?
I say, you know, if they want to escape, there's always a lot of alligators to have a good meal. I have no problem.
So how much will all this cost? The Department of Homeland Security says about $450 million a year. The state will pay for it, but will be reimbursed by FEMA funds that the Biden administration previously used to house migrants in other places, including New York City. Hallie.
Gabe Gutierrez powering through tonight. Gabe, thank you very much for being down there for us. Let's take you out west to Idaho now, where you've got victims' families appearing very divided tonight, as the accused killer in the University of Idaho murders is set to appear in court tomorrow for that critical hearing on a plea deal. A hearing we now know will be live streamed. We're talking about Bryan Kohberger with the breaking news. We brought you on this show just about 24 hours ago. Kohberger is set to plead guilty for the murder of these 4 students in 2022. Ethan Chapin, Zana Kernodle, Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonzalez. Now, on the one hand, you've got the family of Ethan Chapin saying that they support this apparent plea bargain. They say they plan to be there in court tomorrow. But Kaylee Gonzalez's family, a very different perspective there. They've said, we will not stop fighting for the life that was stolen unjustly. Kaylee's father says he's going to be outside court. And as for Madison Mogen, her family tells CBS News they were relieved to hear about this potential plea deal. Liz Kreutz is following the story for us from Boise, Idaho. And Liz, a very intense moment for these families that have been living this horrific nightmare since their kids were stabbed and killed in 2022, who will now be, some of them at least, showing up for this hearing tomorrow, in which we expect Kohberger and his defense team to present this plea deal to the judge alongside prosecutors. What is the expectation for how this is going to happen?
Yeah, Hallie, this is truly a stunning development to happen, especially so late, just weeks before this trial was set to begin after 2.5 years of delays and delays. And so it's shocking, honestly, to everybody here that this is where we're at now. But we do expect a hearing tomorrow at this courthouse. Family members of the victims are going to be here. And it is very likely and expected that Bryan Kohberger will accept that plea deal, which, according to the Idaho Statesman, which cites a letter that prosecutors reportedly sent to some of the victims' family members, he will plead guilty to 4 charges of first-degree murder for each of those 4 University of Idaho students, 1 charge of burglary. He will then serve life in prison without the possibility of parole. And in exchange for that, he will give up the death penalty, we should say, will be thrown out. And that is a sticking point for some of the family members who feel like that is how they will find justice. In fact, Kaylee Gonzalez's sister, Aubrey, posted on Facebook, she said, allowing him to serve life in prison will mean that Kohberger gets to speak and form relationships while our loved ones have been silenced. Hallie.
Do we know if Kohberger is going to speak tomorrow in court? Will there have to be sort of more detail about this plea deal? Will the victims get a chance to speak, or are these all open questions?
All of this are open questions right now, Hallie. We don't even know a lot about this plea deal. I mean, there's questions about whether or not the plea deal could also require him to give a little bit more, answer some of those, questions that people have regarding motive, regarding where the knife is. It's still unclear. And I think some of the family members were hoping that through this trial, they would get some of those answers. On the flip side, though, as you said, we're hearing from some family members who are supporting it. And we talked to a legal expert who explained that allowing this plea deal will also give some of the family members finality, at least from a legal sense. Take a listen.
At least they get to be done and don't have to relive this nightmare publicly over and over and over again through an appeal process.
All right, because, as you know, Hallie, a death sentence basically could go on for years and years of appeals. So we really are seeing split reactions here to what each family member feels would bring them some closure.
Liz Kreutz, I know you'll be there at court for us tomorrow as well. I know we'll talk again. Thank you. Appreciate it. Coming up here on the show, the record rainfall sweeping away cars and shutting down schools in China. More of this video in a second. Plus, the big dupe debacle, who Lululemon's accusing of copycatting. Next. Investigators in Idaho trying to figure out a motive after Sunday's deadly ambush that killed 2 firefighters. With their bodies returning home in a procession of emergency cars and trucks. You see the crowds lining the streets. People were on the highways, the overpasses to pay their respects to the fallen battalion chiefs, John Morrison and Frank Harwood. Both their bodies escorted back from the medical examiner's office in Spokane, Washington. A 3rd firefighter David Tisdale, is in critical condition after 2 surgeries. The suspect allegedly started this fire near Coeur d'Alene on Sunday, basically luring first responders to the scene and then shooting them before dying by suicide. Sam Brock is following this story for us. Fill us in on the latest developments, including what else we're learning now about these 2 battalion chiefs.
Sure. So those 2 battalion chiefs, just to start there, Hallie, one of them was 42 years old, married with kids. Another one was 52 years old, had been with the fire department since 1996. You mentioned David Tisdale as well. You see him on the left side of your screen. As far as we know, he's still fighting for his life. I think it is fair to say Wes Rowley is the individual that police have pinpointed as being at the center of this. He's the one they found near a firearm who they say had inflicted a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He is 20 years old. You saw that picture earlier. As far as background on him, we've learned all sorts of information from the fact that police say that he was living potentially out of his car, that he was a transient, in their words, had partial residences in California and in Arizona, is also someone, according to a roommate that he had for a period of time until about 6 months ago, had changed his behavior in recent months. His name is TJ Franks, the roommate, spoke to the Associated Press about what he observed from Sandpoint, Idaho, before his roommate left. Take a listen to this.
Towards the end, he started acting a little weird, and I don't know why, but, you know, we just explained to him we needed our own space. He left peacefully. You know, he didn't say anything harmful to us. He just left.
Said he cut his hair. Hallie, a family member or spokesperson for the family of the suspect, has now brought their thoughts here as well. Here's what they said, and I quote, "There are no words right now that can suffice for this tragedy and the infinite losses suffered by those affected by this shooting. We do not understand why this happened or how this came about. Our hearts and spirits are broken for the lost and hurting, and for our own loss as well." It's important to point out, we still don't know what the motivation was behind this, but the grandfather for the suspect said that he had respect for law enforcement, respect for firefighters, wanted to be a firefighter. Perhaps he said it might have been rejection. He's not entirely sure what could have spawned it, but it completely took his own family, not to mention this community, blindsidedly. And you just think about the level of depravity that it takes to lure firefighters to a scene, to then turn around, interact with the firefighters, and then 30 minutes later, according to police, climb a tree and fire at them.
It's just horrific. Sam Brock, we appreciate you keeping us up to speed on all developments from the West Coast. Thank you.
You got it.
Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, record rain in central China means that area's gotten a month's worth of rain in just 12 hours. Look at this, that brown water ripping through the streets, sweeping away cars. Thousands of people have had to evacuate. This is a very large scale. School service, bus service is shut down. Take a look at this. Police rescuing, number 2, a 5-year-old who wandered off into the Arizona desert with his dog. You can see it's basically pitch black. Deputies say they managed to track this kiddo down with one of their canines. When they found him, his dog was right there by his side. Fortunately, both are doing okay. Number 3, Hurricane Flossie, now a Cat 1, strengthening off the coast of Mexico in the Pacific. It's expected to bring like 6 inches of rain in some cities along the coast. The possibility of mudslides has people worried on this one. The storm is expected to peak over the next day or so. Number 4, Lululemon suing Costco today, accusing them of selling knockoffs of some of its stuff, like this jacket. Costco sells it for $8. Lululemon says it's a ripoff. You can see Lululemon's version on the left of its scuba pullover, which costs like $100 plus. The company tells NBC News it takes the issue very seriously and that its brand has suffered significant harm. Reps for Costco did not immediately respond to our request for comment. Number 5, the NBA MVP is now also its highest paid player ever. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander getting a new deal reportedly with the Oklahoma City Thunder, of course, just led them to the championship. They'll pay him $285 million over 4 years, which, calculating the math, is about $70 million a season. Pays to be a champ. Coming up, the new data showing Americans pulling back on online shopping. We'll explain why and how long experts think that may last. Plus, look at this. Tons of trash piling up on Philly streets, why union workers are off the job and when they could come back. New numbers out tonight are some of the clearest signals yet that President Trump's tariffs may be having a big impact on how people are shopping. with this poll finding a real drop in online shopping numbers compared to last year. Look at this. From office supplies to cosmetics to sporting goods, big hits. Other categories like furniture and electronics are also down pretty sharply. Analysts say this is the first widespread pullback in online shopping that they've seen in more than a decade. Remember, some people have been finding higher prices than they thought on things online that are getting shipped in from overseas, so maybe there's some hesitation at the checkout page. It's possible that the tariffs that President Trump has threatened with that deadline just about a week from now could mean prices skyrocket because of those so-called reciprocal tariffs and that 90-day pause. NBC's Christine Romans is following this one for us.
This new survey, Hallie, just really the clearest sign yet of how the president's trade strategy is affecting your shopping cart. And it's really online shopping we're talking about here. The biggest disruption to online shopping in about a decade, according to this survey. Just about every category you can think of, people buying less. They're trying to find places where these prices are cheaper because this is where a lot of those imported goods are sold online, and those imported goods carry tariffs here. We're seeing declines in all of these categories, big declines, except for groceries, which shows you that consumers are prioritizing maybe needs and wants. Another fascinating angle here is something that you might have heard economists talk about, sneakflation. We haven't seen inflation really flare up because of tariffs just yet, because companies are trying to find ways to absorb it, to hide it, to put it someplace else before they actually put the sticker shock in your cart, for example. One of the places you're starting to see this is free shipping, maybe a little bit fewer opportunities for free shipping, maybe shorter return windows, right? So that's some of the places where companies are starting to cut their costs, even as everyone's trying to figure out what this new world of tariffs is going to look like. I mentioned groceries quickly. Really interesting, Waffle House has dropped its egg surcharge, so that's some good news for consumers in the grocery category who had been worried about high egg prices, inflation still on the grocery bill. That, along with gas prices, probably a bright spot for consumers these days. Hallie?
Christine Romans, thank you very much. Tonight, out of Philly, some concerns that garbage is going to start piling up on the streets after the union representing sanitation workers went on strike. It's not just garbage collection that stopped. There's going to be fewer people working in the water department, the parks department, even 911 operators. All of this after months of negotiations between the union and the city, one of the country's biggest, broke down overnight. They couldn't get to a deal on a new contract. This is something that a lot of folks around the country are watching. And NBC's Marquise Francis has more.
We are union! We are the union!
City services in Philadelphia grinding to a halt. With the city's largest municipal workers union on strike. Its 9,000 members include everyone from 911 operators to sanitation workers. With trash collection stopped, concerns that garbage will start to pile up on city streets. But union members say it sends a clear message.
If this is what we have to do to get our point across, to let the mayor know that we're not playing, by all means, let the trash pile up.
The strike beginning 1 minute after midnight this morning when negotiations between the union and city officials failed to agree on a new multi-year contract for city workers. The union demanding more money, better job security, and more substantial health benefits for all members, calling out the rising cost of living in the major metropolis.
I'm tired of our men and women being effectively the working poor in the city of Philadelphia. They deserve more than that. They need more than that.
Philly Mayor Cheryl Parker saying she's offering historically generous raises to the union.
But no mayor, not one, has ever proposed wage increases over one term as large as I am proposing to the workers of District Council 33, more than 12%.
The simmering labor tensions and sweltering summer heat boiling over.
You on strike?
This forceful exchange, captured by our affiliate WCAU, shows striking union members closing a sanitation site that a manager tried to open, even putting their own padlocks on the gate.
We not moving. Tell that to the mayor.
Today's strike affects a broad swath of city services, in addition to trash pickup and street cleaning. Employees stopping work at the city's water department, parks and recreation, and the airport. Even school crossing guards are off the job. Although city leaders stress essential services like 911 dispatch will continue to operate, while also urging residents to be patient. It's been almost 40 years since the Public Workers Union here last went on strike.
15,000 city workers in Philadelphia walked off their jobs this morning.
The 1986 work stoppage lasted 20 days, causing a 45,000-ton pileup of rotting garbage that posed a major public health risk. This time, residents can bring their trash to a few dozen temporary collection centers around the city, and negotiators hoping to avoid a smelly situation.
Hopefully the city understands how pivotal our people are and comes to the table soon with a deal that makes sense for all of us.
Brotherly love only goes so far when the city's workers say they've had enough. Marquise Francis, NBC News.
Coming up, how potentially dangerous bacteria could really mess up your holiday beach plans. Plus, the new charges coming for a man accused of assaulting another passenger on a flight to Miami. We'll show you the pretty wild mid-air flight captured on camera. To a new and growing threat at beaches across the country, which could really throw a wrench into your July 4th holiday plans. Don't get mad at the messenger, but state officials around the country say they're closing more and more beaches because of high levels of a bacteria that could make swimmers super sick. Look at the map here from coast to coast beach closures, including 20 in Massachusetts alone, because of excessive levels of a bacteria known as Vibrio. It's Vibrio that they're finding in the water. Let's go to NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar. You don't want to mess around with this to the point that if this is in your area, your beach is probably already shutting down, right?
Yeah, that's right, Hallie. So let's think about it this way. There's about 80,000 infections with Vibrio every year. The majority of them actually happen from exposure to contaminated food like uncooked or undercooked raw shellfish. But the remainder are from exposure to coastal waters. Vibrio naturally exists in these waters, and they really increase in number during the summer months, exactly when people are obviously going to the beach. And the biggest concern is if you have, let's say, an open wound or something, and you become exposed to Vibrio in the water, that can lead to a significant wound infection. You might have heard of necrotizing fasciitis or that flesh-eating bacteria. That's the complication that we worry about when we have a wound infection with Vibrio. But if you're contaminated and you get a gastrointestinal illness, that's like diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, which can also be quite serious in certain cases.
You know, people might think, wait a second, Vibrio, where have I heard that before? We talked about it a bunch, I think it was a couple summers ago, because there was an issue with, you mentioned undercooked shellfish, from oysters. And that is, remains kind of a persistent problem. What's the level of concern now about Vibrio and shellfish?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always a concern to a degree. And I think, again, during the summer months, when we know that Vibrio counts are higher in the waters where the shellfish are coming from, people need to be concerned. And anyone can get sick from Vibrio at any time. But if you're immunocompromised, you're at especially high risk. And what you need to do, first of all, if you're getting shellfish, if you're going to a restaurant or you're buying it yourself, you need to make sure it's coming from a reputable source, and you need to make sure that they are cooked. They need to be cooked at 145 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 15 seconds. That's the internal temperature. And that way you can be, as sure as you can be that you've actually killed the Vibrio bacteria.
Dr. Natalie Azar, good info, good intel as we head into July 4th. Thank you very much. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Western Bureau, a Utah mom is now facing new charges for alleged financial crimes related to her husband's death. Remember Corey Rishens? She pleaded not guilty to killing her husband back in 2022, then published a children's book about how to cope with grief. Her lawyers call the new charges extremely troubling. The murder trial is set to start in February. Out of our Northeast Bureau, it is officially official. Zohran Mamdani coming out on top in the Democratic primary election for New York City mayor, according to NBC projections. He beat out Andrew Cuomo in that primary, but it may not be over for Cuomo since the former governor is forming his own political party that could be on the ballot come November. Mamdani will also face now independent candidate, the current mayor, Eric Adams. Out of our Southern Bureau, big fight on a flight out of Miami, ending with one man now facing assault charges. You see one of the pictures there. This appears to show the two men, look at this video, tackling each other. Like, look at that. They're like over the seat back. It looks like one of the maybe flight attendants or another passenger is kind of watching. The victim told police the 21-year-old suspect grabbed him by the neck as he was heading back to his seat. We still don't know why or what they were fighting about in the first place. Coming up here on the show, this record-setting heat is not the only thing shocking some of tennis's biggest stars. Why Wimbledon's grass looked less like a friend, more like a foe to one of America's hottest names. So as the temperatures have gone up at Wimbledon, some of the world's biggest stars have gone down with huge upsets in the first round, including, I hate to say it, Coco Gauff, America's biggest star, arguably. One of the big questions going into the tournament was how she would do playing on the grass. The answer? Not as well as everybody, had hoped, I think. If you wanted to see her win, the #2 ranked player and French Open champ was beaten in straight sets. The #3 ranked player was also knocked out today in her first round, Jessica Pegula. First time 2 of the top 3 seeds have lost this early at Wimbledon. Danielle Hamamjian is joining us now. So what is it? Is it just kind of like a weird, quirky day? Is it the fact that there's this massive heat wave where you are in London? What's going on?
Your guess is as good as mine, Hallie. When Coco Gauff won the French Open last month, she appeared on the Today Show, and she told our colleagues there that this was uncharted territory for her, that she was going into this tournament behind me, having just won the French Open, and was curious, she said, about what she would learn from this experience. Well, fast forward to day 2 of this tournament, and there are a lot of lessons to be learned for Coco Gauff. It was not meant to be. It was mistake after mistake. She was really struggling with her serve, and you could see it on her face. In the end, she lost 7-6, 6-1 to Diana Yastremska, a Ukrainian opponent. A difficult first-round draw for her. She should have beaten her, but also her opponent had the potential to cause quite the upset, and she certainly did. The biggest challenge for Coco Gauff was that quick transition from clay to grass, which you mentioned earlier, which she admits is not her best surface, and she was very busy in the past few weeks. Media appearances, other tournaments, and look, this place, she's just 21 years old, but this place has so much history for her. It was here back when she was 15 years old, back in 2019, that she beat one of her heroes, Venus Williams, but since then, has never won Wimbledon and has never made it past the 4th round. A shocker for Coco Gauff, as you mentioned, the 2nd ranked tennis player in the world for women's tennis.
Yeah.
A shocker for her, a huge disappointment, no doubt.
Before we let you go, Danielle, though, what's going on over on the men's side? Upsets there, too?
Oh, my goodness. A long list of top-seeded men who did not make it past the first round. 4 out of the top 10. They are the 3rd, the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th best in the world, crashing out in the first round. But Novak Djokovic back for his 25th Grand Slam title. And guess what? He made it. He made it past the first round. He is going through.
Danielle Hamamjian, tomorrow we've got to get you inside. We'll get you a seat in the stands there for your reporting on all of it. Thank you so much for being there for us live in London. Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate it. And thanks to all of you for watching on yet another very busy news night. That's a wrap for this hour, but we've got more coverage picking up right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.